Not being happy with where my life is going, I decided to change it.
One day, Colton Hiltz was one of the most recognizable faces on Discovery Channel. A tattooed kid from Nova Scotia, learning the trade from his famous father, winning over fans episode by episode. Then, without any warning, without any announcement, he was gone. No farewell post, no explanation, just silence. And the fans who followed Bad Chad customs noticed immediately. Comment sections started filling up with the same question over and over. Where did Colton go? For years, nobody answered it. Not Chad, not Colton, not Discovery. Just a wall of quiet that somehow got louder the longer it lasted. Here's the thing, though. If you look closely at everything that played out on screen, everything that happened after the cameras stopped rolling, and everything that both of them have chosen not to say, the picture becomes a lot clearer. This is what really happened to Colton Hiltz. Most people who watched Bad Chad Customs saw Colton as just the kid in the shop. Chad's son, the apprentice, the guy getting yelled at for welding the wrong way. But there was a lot more to his story than what the cameras showed. Colton Hiltz was born in 1998 in Spring Hill, Nova Scotia, and within a year of his birth, his parents were already done. Chad and Colton's mother, Carla Mooring, split when Colton was barely old enough to walk. From that point on, Colton was raised by his mother in a completely different town, while Chad built his reputation in Canning. The visits between father and son were rare. The relationship was thin at best. Chad had already fathered a daughter at just 16 years old before Colton even came along, so stability wasn't exactly his track record. Colton grew up largely without his dad in the picture. And that's not speculation. The show itself made that crystal clear from the very first episode. So when Colton packed up his life in 2018 and moved to Canning to work full-time at Green Goblin Customs, this wasn't just a career decision. For him, it was personal. He was chasing something he'd never really had, a real relationship with his father. When Bad Chad Customs hit Discovery Channel on January 1st, 2019, it wasn't just another car show. The network knew exactly what they were selling. Yes, Chad's builds were extraordinary, welding boat parts onto classic frames, turning scrap metal and junkyard finds into award-winning machines on a shoestring budget. That alone was enough to pull viewers in. But the emotional hook, the thing that kept people coming back every single week, was the father-son story. Discovery leaned into it hard. Here was a dad who hadn't been there, and a son who showed up anyway. Colton arrived with zero professional experience, no formal training, and a genuine desire to make it work. That combination of vulnerability and determination made him immediately likable to anyone watching. Fans rooted for him from day one. They wanted to see him succeed, wanted to see Chad finally step up, wanted to see the two of them build something real, not just cars, but an actual relationship. The show promised that story. It promised growth, redemption, and a father and son finally finding their footing together. For a while, it genuinely looked like that might happen. The builds were incredible, the audience was growing, and Colton was improving every episode. But what was playing out behind the dynamic on screen told a very different story. From the very first season, viewers picked up on something that didn't sit right. Chad wasn't just tough on Colton, he was relentless, criticizing his technique in front of the crew, questioning his decisions on camera, dismissing his input without much thought. Episode after episode, Colton would show up, work hard, and still find himself on the receiving end of his father's frustration. Fans noticed immediately. Comment sections and forums lit up with people calling Chad out directly. Words like harsh, unfair, and too hard on him came up constantly. Some viewers defended it as old-school tough love, the kind of mentorship that produces results. But a lot of others saw something more uncomfortable. A man who hadn't been present for his son's entire childhood, now expecting perfection the moment Colton walked through his shop door. Jolene McIntyre, Chad's fiancée and the shop manager, quietly stepped in more than once to smooth things over. She clearly had a good relationship with Colton and understood the weight of what he was navigating. But even her presence could only absorb so much. The tension between father and son wasn't manufactured for ratings or exaggerated for dramatic effect. It was decades of emotional distance playing out in real time, inside a garage, under studio lights. And that kind of wound doesn't heal just because the cameras are rolling. When Season 2 finally dropped on August 17, 2020, fans were relieved. The show had gone dark for over a year after Season 1 wrapped, and the audience had been waiting. The new season was bigger, 14 episodes compared to Season 1's 6, and the builds were more ambitious than ever. On the surface, things looked like they were progressing. Colton's skills had visibly improved. There were moments where the two of them actually clicked, where it felt like the relationship was slowly finding its footing. But the cracks were still there, and the season finale made that impossible to ignore. The final episode, which aired October 24, 2020, ended with the pressure of a deadline becoming too much for Colton entirely. He walked away from the build. The short-staffed team scrambled to finish without him. It was one of the most telling moments of the entire series. Not because Colton couldn't handle the work, but because it showed just how much weight he had been carrying the whole time. After that episode aired, Discovery went completely silent. No Season 3 announcement, no renewal, no cancellation statement. Just nothing. For a show that had built a genuine fan base and was pulling strong viewership, that silence was deafening. And it was only the beginning of a much longer quiet that was coming. When it became clear that Discovery wasn't bringing the show back, Chad and Jolene didn't sit around waiting. They pivoted hard to YouTube and built something impressive. The Bad Chad channel grew past 300,000 subscribers, pumping out consistent content. Custom builds, behind-the-scenes, shop footage, travel vlogs with Jolene, project reveals, day-in-the-life videos. It became a full operation, and the audience responded. But scroll through that content and something jumps out immediately. Colton isn't there. Not in the builds, not in the travel content, not in the casual behind-the-scenes clips that Chad and Jolene regularly post. For a channel that documents life at Hiltz Auto Company in significant detail, his absence is not subtle. This wasn't a case of someone slowly fading into the background either. Colton went from being one of the two central figures of a Discovery Channel show to being completely absent from his father's entire online presence. No cameos, no mentions, no collaborative videos, nothing, and it wasn't just the YouTube channel. Colton's own social media went quiet around the same window. His Instagram still carries Bad Chad Customs in the bio, a remnant of what the show once was, but personal updates became sparse and eventually nearly non-existent. For someone who had spent 2 years building a public profile, that kind of retreat doesn't happen by accident. With no official explanation from either side, the fan community did what it always does. It started filling in the blanks. And the theories that emerged aren't random speculation. They're rooted in everything the show put on screen and everything that happened after it ended. The first theory is the most generous one, that Colton simply chose a different path. That after 2 seasons of brutal deadlines, high-pressure builds, and the weight of performing a complicated family relationship on national television, he decided to step away and build a quieter life for himself away from cameras and car shops entirely. It's plausible. Not everyone who gets a taste of reality TV wants more of it. The second theory cuts a little deeper. That the tension fans watched play out on screen was never fully resolved off it. That the relationship between Chad and Colton, already fragile from years of absence, couldn't survive the pressure of working together publicly under those conditions. That, what looked like tough love on camera, was actually doing real damage beneath the surface. The third theory connects both of those ideas. That being thrust into a public spotlight with a father he barely knew accelerated something that was already broken. That the show didn't fix the distance between them. It just gave it a bigger stage. None of these theories have been confirmed, but not one of them has been denied either. Here's what makes this whole situation stand out from your typical reality TV disappearing act. Chad Hiltz is not a quiet person. He runs an active YouTube channel, posts regularly, engages with his audience, and has built an entire online brand around giving fans an inside look at his life and his work. He has had hundreds of videos and thousands of comments to work with, countless opportunities to mention his son, reference a project they worked on together, or simply acknowledge that Colton exists. And consistently, across years of content, he hasn't. That's not an oversight, that's a choice. Colton's side of the silence is just as telling. His Instagram bio still references bad Chad customs like a timestamp, a marker of who he was during those 2 seasons. But the account itself has gone almost completely dark. No updates, no car content, no indication of what he's doing or where his life has taken him since the show ended. In the world of reality television and social media, where even the most minor cast members find ways to stay visible, that level of sustained quiet from both a father and son simultaneously points to something unresolved. People who part on good terms don't typically pretend the other person stopped existing. They don't scrub the references. They don't go years without a single public acknowledgement. The silence between Chad and Colton isn't empty. It's full of everything neither of them has been willing to say. So there it is, a lifetime of distance, a high-pressure TV reunion, a season finale that ended with Colton walking away, and then years of unexplained silence from both sides. No clean ending, no public statement, no closure for the fans who watched them every week. And maybe that's the most honest part of this whole story. Real family wounds don't wrap up neatly like a television build reveal. The cameras captured something genuine between Chad and Colton, something complicated, something unresolved. And based on everything since, it looks like it's still unresolved today. What do you think really happened? Drop it in the comments below.